Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. And today, my special guest is Jeff Fulkerson, also known as the Fro Bro. Jeff is on a mission to rid the world of terrible websites. He believes that every business needs a professional website to thrive, even if your actual services don't involve anything digital. He personally knows the impact of a great website or a fro, which we'll get into in a few minutes, can have on your image and on the perception of others. And he wants to help other businesses stand out and be represented online in the best way possible. It's going to be an amazing conversation today. Jeff, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to be here.
So, I would like to dig in a little bit on your backstory, on basically how you got to be working as a website developer and a digital marketer, more in general. But also, I got to hear the story about the fro.
Of course. Yeah, it's a good story. I didn't always have a fro. Growing up, I used to have just a flat top crew cut, maybe because it was easy or simple. But my mom kept encouraging me to grow out my hair and see what it was like. So finally I did in high school, grew it out over the summer. Turns out I had a curly fro. It kind of stuck. People liked it. And, I could walk through the halls in my high school and I'd get random people just like reach out, touch my hair when I'm walking by. I'm like, I don't know who that was in the crowd of people. But of course it made me feel good to be noticed and stand out. And there's one time actually I was walking on the boardwalk at the beach, and there were two girls on bikes going the opposite direction. And one of the girls almost crashed her bike because she was trying to touch my hair just as she rode by. No idea who it was, but it was just really funny. So that's kind of where some of the idea for Frobro Web Technologies comes from. A fro does a lot for your image and perception, of others. They see you, they notice you, it makes you stand out. It's something unique that sets you apart. And a good professional website can do the same thing for your business. So that's the connection there. But ever since I've had a fro, I've been nicknamed Jeffro. I was a fro bro because in college there's another guy with a fro, so we were fro bros. So it just kind of fits, and I like the connection to how it can make you stand out, and it's really something you can choose to put on, whether that's stepping up your website and now you've got this thing that makes you unique.
What's interesting about that? First of all, kudos to you for finding, a personal image, that fits, and you're able to bring that into, your business in general and really make it stick, right? Because that's one of the things that sometimes a lot of people miss, right? They try to create a name for their business, and then they want to, create I don't know, like an 800 number. They want to look at bigger than they actually are. And then what happens is that they sort of disengage their own personality from their business, right?
Right.
I was actually like that. I wanted people to think that I was this amazing agency that had they had people working around the world, when in reality it was just me and a couple of people in in India and a couple of writers in the United States. And I was like, I would talk a much bigger game. But then what happened is that a lot of people figure out that it's not really this massive team that I'm creating. They're buying into me. They're buying into you. They're buying into the trust that you are putting out into the marketplace, right? And
Right.
by being able to to differentiate yourself in that manner is actually gold, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk with you about is how you approach when a new customer comes, into your wheelhouse. How do you help them figure out like what is the, like the best way for them to set up a website? Because it's not just, pulling out WordPress or Squarespace and setting up an about, contact us, and services page, right? There's a lot more to it than that. Let's talk a little bit about your one big tip and how you help people go through that process, in order to create an amazing web presence that basically becomes the hub of everything that they do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really important to have that professional website, because it is really the central hub of your business. All of your marketing efforts lead back to your website, whether it's, on your business card, over the phone, you give your website, any marketing campaign you do, any ad that you run, it all links back to your website. So that has to ground everything that you do and really convey your messaging to your prospect, whoever you're trying to talk to. So when I get a new client, the first thing I do is I have a long meeting with them where we go deep, and I ask as many questions as I can think of about their business, what they do that makes them different, who they're serving, and kind of why, and also what they want their brand to be about. Sometimes they haven't themselves gone through these questions or thought about it, so I have to draw it out a little bit. But once I can figure out, okay, this is why you want a website. It's not just a checkbox for your business. A lot of people think it is that, and then they forget about it. But it's more than that. So you need to figure out who you're talking to, and what you're doing for them, and why you're uniquely qualified to do that for them. Then I can help write some of the headlines and copy on the website, and decide what the layout will be in order to capture that attention for the people that they really want to be interacting with. So that's the first step. And then from there, we can get into design and optimizing performance and things like that.
Yeah, so I do want to talk about that a little bit. But before we go on, I feel that sometimes, like when clients come into my wheelhouse or come into yours, they really do see the website as a destination when it's really just the foundation, right? It really is something where it's the foundation on where you build the house off of. It's not, a place that you go to and, it just finishes up from there. I mean, there are plenty of websites out there that, and it doesn't need to be so visually stunning that it can only run on the latest iPhones. It doesn't need to be, like these, like all these crazy animations going across. It just really needs to be set up in a logical order, right? I mean, there's, you need to be able to tell people, like who you are and why, and explain to them, okay, this is why you're here. Right. So let's go into that. Let's talk a little bit about how you do help customers optimize their site so that it does, in fact, become a profit center for them, almost like their storefront, as opposed to just being some brochure that is disposable just as easy.
Yeah. Well, I like to call it sometimes an online platform, like you said, instead of just a website, because that kind of might change the way you think about it. We start with simple things like, okay, what do you want this person to do when they come to your website? They've never heard about you before. What do you want them to do? Do they want you to, do you want them to call you on the phone? Do you want them to book an appointment? Do you want them to get on your email list? Like how can you best serve them? What's the next step that you want for them? And then we can kind of make sure that the navigation bars align with that. If you want someone to come to your site and make an appointment, but there's no button, make an appointment, it's just the standard, about contact, you're missing an opportunity there. So those are the kind of things that if you get really crystal clear on that, then everything else kind of falls into place.
So right. So when you get a new client that, that wants to talk to you about the web presence, are there any particular niches that you focus on to the exclusion of others, or are you more like a pan digital marketing agency that takes on most customers that come your way? How does that look like? How does that world look like to you?
There's only a couple industries that I won't work with, but I typically work with service-based industries. So things that aren't necessarily doing e-commerce online. So like a landscaper or a street sweeper, even a medical clinic. These are all real world physical services that are being offered. But having the website to back that and support that can drive prospects to that company. It legitimizes them in some ways. It's like for landscaping, as an example, a lot of people think of landscapers. Sometimes they get a bad rap as being, fly-by-night organization. You're not sure if they're going to show up or how, if they're going to still be there tomorrow, right? But if you have a professional website, you're showing, okay, we've been in business since this year. We're family owned. This is our mission and values. This is our contractor license number. All this stuff goes a long way to build up credibility in the prospect's mind so that they're more comfortable hiring you. They see that you are legitimate and are comfortable moving forward. Because like it or not, people are going to judge you based on your website. Even if you're really great at your profession, if you have a terrible website, people are going to think that you're not going to put the detail that you need to into their work.
I really love that you brought up that point, because there are so many opportunities to go the cheap route, right?
Right.
Which is, like a free site from GoDaddy's site builder, or
Mm-hmm.
the free version of Wix, right? And the funny thing about that is that they have these, first of all, they have the attribution on the bottom where it just says, this website was created for free by, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that, let's say, for example, you are in the landscaping business and you want to charge $500 or to $1,000 to, for someone to come and do work on your house. But then you realize, wait a second, they're taking all that money and they can't be bothered to improve their image just a little bit. Right. I mean, it's like walking into a store without proper lighting, or without or without a good floor.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? I'd like to know from you though, when you are talking to companies like that, and especially when they start getting into the subject of budget, right? Obviously, some companies just aren't ready to have a website yet, which is, well, again, it's the foundation, right? So, that's that's a topic for another day. But when you do bring them on and they are cost conscious, how do you help them overcome the fact that their website is actually their storefront, even though they didn't take a storefront in a shopping mall or on the street or whatever? How do you convince them of that?
Yeah, you just have to give them enough reasons to help them understand, because I think some people don't have a digital mindset. Either maybe if they're an older generation, it's just a little bit of a foreign concept, so maybe they don't think in those terms. But if you help them realize this is a first impression, everyone understands first impressions matter. So if your website looks like it was just thrown together by an amateur on a weekend, then that's going to be the first impression of your business, and that's how they're going to feel about you. Obviously, you don't want that. The other thing is, in terms of costs, is if you do it yourself, you're not going to get a return on your investment. You haven't invested anything, and I'm touching on a couple of things. I'll try to be clear here. You can make your website as pretty as you want for free. If nobody sees it, it doesn't matter, right? So if you have a professional site, not only will it look good, it will be optimized to load quickly and be ranked well in the search engines. So those are factors that play into that investment in terms of getting a return. By doing it right, it will continue to work for you. As we mentioned, this is the central hub of your business. So if you do it right over time, it's going to convert visitors into customers, and it's going to pay for itself over and over.
That's really great that you went into that, because sometimes those conversations with prospective clients like that can be, they can be challenging, because at the end of the day, you have a price point that you're aiming for,
Mm-hmm.
and there are plenty of there's plenty of misinformation out there. That I've seen these what do you call it, these lawn signs that they stick into the exits on the interstate, here in the US. I'll give you a 5-page website for $2.99, call this number, right?
Right.
And it's always like, well, wait a second, you want me to call a number for someone who's going to do a website, doesn't even list the website on there? It's like, bro, no, that's not how it works. Right.
Yeah.
I think the other part, talking about visibility, is some people just don't understand how how important it is. I'll give you a quick example. One time we were driving down US 1, which is like the main the main thoroughfare over here, and I asked my girls in the back seat, I'm like, hey, can you find us a sushi restaurant, right? And they they went to their Google Maps, and they're like, oh, there's one up about a mile ahead. But out of the corner of my eye, I spotted another sushi restaurant that we just passed, right? And I'm like, well, what about that one there? And they told me, they summed it up beautifully. They're like, well, it didn't appear on my list on my phone. Right. And
Right.
okay, it didn't appear. And that's why they did not get my business that day.
Right.
How do you help people then, after the website is completed, after it's after it's ready to go? What kind of other services do you include in order to help get that traffic, get that recognition, and basically get it to actually work for them, as opposed to just being a brochure?
Yeah, that's a great point. Because if you don't show up in the results, you don't exist, period. So one thing I offer is SEO. For a restaurant like that, it would be a local SEO. It's a company with a physical premise, and you can optimize not just the website, but also any online listings to connect to that location to show up in results as a place that exists near me. Because a lot of people search for things, sushi near me, right? And if you don't show up, you're missing out on a lot of business. So things like Google My Business, you need to be in their directory. You need to be in, if you're in a particular industry, like I'm trying to think of an example, I mean, a mental health clinic or something. There are sites that list, okay, here's the mental health clinics in our county. You want to be on those lists, and you want to show up when people search for those specific location-specific places. So a lot of that goes into the local SEO portion to make sure that when someone searches on Google, you're one of the first results.
Amazing advice. Thank you so much for that. Jeff, can you please let everyone know how they can find you online and how they can reach out to you directly if they'd like to learn more?
Sure. Yeah. I'm on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, at FroBroWeb on all of those. You can go to FroBroWeb.com. And actually, Jeff, I forgot to mention earlier, I set up a page for your listeners. So if you go to FroBroWeb.com/onebigtip, you'll see a page there where I'll give your listeners a 30-minute call where we can talk about their website, how we can improve it, no strings attached. So even if they don't want to work with me, they can take whatever we talk about and implement it themselves. But yeah.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for doing that. Jeff, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time, breaking down why a website is so important for, for just about any business out there, whether it's a physical brick and mortar or even an intangible business like a coaching or or some kind or book authors, things like that. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a fun time.